and led that effort in the Oval Office. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as a State Teacher of the Year, we are honored to visit the White House, and that's been in place since the beginning. And I think back in February, all of the Teachers of the Year, we had our convening, and they talked to us about the importance of like showing up at the White House and why it's important to keep this relationship regardless of who's in office. And so at the time, you like, it's cool, you know, like it's not that big of a deal, you know, whoever's in there is in there. And then as the year keeps progressing, you just keep seeing all the hatred and divisiveness that continues to just come out, and the rhetoric is so negative. And then April comes, and now you in this room, and you waiting to go into the Oval Office. And for me, the day before, we had just visited the National Museum of African American History. And you see this plight of kings and queens to slaves, and the adversity that they had to overcome, that in order to just be considered a citizen, to be considered a human being. And you standing in this room where your people were only able to be servants, or they couldn't even walk in that room without permission, and you know you work for half wages even when you were a butler or a servant or whatever. And it just put so many different emotions inside of me. And at my school, I teach at a charter school, 99% African American school, 50% special education. We sing, lift every voice and sing every single day. So for me, I'm sitting in this room and I don't care about dude, like they seemed like it wasn't scripted. It wasn't scripted to do the Pledge of Allegiance or sing the national anthem. Like that was just something that people wanted to do. And so he starts to talk, and in that moment, you know, you don't pre-plan stuff like that. In that moment, you just like, hold up, I think that we should sing the Black national anthem too. And then he was like, well, go ahead. And so we did. And it was crazy though. It was crazy because, and this is something that I haven't told like many people, like you leave, we do that, and then like you got this rush of adrenaline because you don't understand like in the moment what you really just did. You just know that you did what in your heart felt right. And so now you back in this waiting area, and James, he's a teacher of the year from North Carolina. The teacher of the year, Bobby Kavanaugh, is also from there. This one teacher of the year came up to me. He said, man, that was just the most asshole-ish thing I've seen anybody do, to sing the Negro national anthem, right? And so Bobby's walking over to me, right? Because all of the teachers of the year, very few of them knew the significance of what we just had sang and what we had just done. And so Bobby's walking over to me, and so I look at him like, what? Don't ever say Negro out your mouth. And one, you call it by its proper term, and it wasn't me being an asshole, that was me representing, because this is something, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Bobby just literally turned around, like he just walked away. And then we walking outside, and then everybody, like they don't give you cars on the way back, so everybody's like walking, and everybody's just kind of walking their own way. And I'm like literally walking by myself. And you like, I didn't care. The first person I called was my grandma. Like I ain't talked to my grandma, I don't know how long, but I felt the need to call her in that moment. And because I felt like if anybody would be proud of me, somebody like my grandmother would be proud of me. And then we all hanging out in this place, and then all of the teachers had researched it and they looked it up, and then teacher after teacher just came up to you and they're like, man, thank you for allowing me to be a part of that. I didn't understand what I was a part of, but like, thank you for that. And so many people said how that was the most special moment from that White House visit. And for me, that was bigger than me. That's something that you take back home and you do that for the culture. You know what I'm talking about? So it was surreal, and it became something much bigger than me. And it became an opportunity to show, like, regardless of what situation you're in, it's easy to do that with Obama. It's a little bit tougher to do that with somebody like Trump in the White House. Takes courage, but isn't that what we want our young kings and queens to have?
Thank you so much. And so, in that moment, I appreciate you for the culture. I appreciate you speaking up. And so, Brother Ford, following the events of Ferguson, you wrote a blog, Silence is Betrayal, in which you called out this country for its failure to lift up our Black and brown children. Can you talk a little bit about what the nature of that article was?
Yeah, so Similar to what Abdul said, the process for becoming Teacher of the Year is a rigorous one, and I never knew you won awards for teaching. Nobody enters the profession for that. But I always approach my work in the classroom as an activist anyway. So as a world history teacher, as I mentioned, man, we were in there, trying to break cycles and break change. And I tried to build what I now understand to be a critical consciousness. I didn't know that at the time, but really I was just trying to tell my students, like, this is how the world is, and like, this is how we break the chains, right? And so then when you get elevated to this position, where suddenly you're shot out of the classroom, and I was the first black male to win Teacher of the Year in North Carolina in 40 years. And so, and it was a Republican, I'm not trying to be divisive here, but it was a Republican legislature with a Republican governor, and you got this black man, this dark-skinned black man with dreadlocks standing up representing 95,000 teachers. In the South, right? So I think people were wondering what I was gonna do. And initially I tried just to speak on education issues, but again, man, we had to stick to our convictions. I'm a person, I believe my steps are ordered. There's not been a single thing in my life that hasn't been divinely ordained. And so at some point in time, you gotta ask yourself, why am I here? And it's not just to tiptoe around issues or chew the fat. And so, on the one hand, I thought, I don't believe in celebrity status, but most folks, you should be just excited to get your picture made. And your Teacher of the Year, just be happy to be here. I'm not a happy to be here type of dude, right? I usually come with a plan in hand. And so rather than just speak about things that were politically correct, when the Ferguson situation happened, I said, I don't have this platform just to sit on. I don't believe in celebrity for the sake of celebrity, right? Just to be celebrated as a teacher. You have a voice, you have a megaphone, and so I said, I gotta speak out on this. Because the issues that impact the students in my classroom, you can't just advocate for students' educational rights and then remain silent about their human rights. And so, when you talk about Mike Brown was a student in somebody's school district. Okay, when you talk about Philando Castile, he worked in a school, right? So what happens in the classroom is not divorced from the greater whole of society. And so I said, you know what? I got to speak my mind. And that was kind of a coming out party for me, and I think people thought at the time that it was, me stepping out of my bounds to weigh in on issues of social relevance. But at the end of the day, I think most black male teachers, we enter the profession either because, one, we want to be the teachers we never had, or because we do it based on the impetus of social justice. We're trying to right wrongs, we're trying to make the crooked way straight. And to me, that's the best way that I can think of in that moment to use my platform as Teacher of the Year to speak truth to power and to speak to the issues that are going on that I know impact the society that shows up in all of our classrooms. The two things are not divorced from each other.
Thank you. And so you talk about this calling to education, and one of the things we've learned in the fellowship is that so many of us don't necessarily go into education outright from high school, so we don't major in it. Mr. Dewar, you actually majored in education in college and knew very early that you wanted to be a teacher. Can you talk about your preparation as a teacher and how that parallels your experience entering into the classroom?
So I would say, to be honest, maybe the first year of college, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I was dead set on making that happen. And family, friends, they knew that, okay, Kevin is going to be this criminal prosecutor one day. And I think midway during my college experiences, I began studying history more. I had a few professors, a few black professors who just truly articulated the power of agency, the power of history, the power of self-worth. And coming from Northern Virginia, a diverse population, and I'll admit this, I think I took advantage of not truly understanding the importance of celebrating diversity, celebrating critical thinking. So coming down to a college as William & Mary, I was challenged on that, and I'm still grateful for my professors. And I think during that shift for me, I realized that being a lawyer for me is not enough. Like being a teacher, being able to truly study from professors, not even professors that I have, but educators who have looked like me over the course of history. Being able to truly read and analyze everything and anything. And it took a while for me to get to a point, especially in my career, to feel comfortable and tell people, yes, on a daily basis, I watch CNN and Fox News. Like on a daily basis, I'm someone who will talk to that individual who may have a different point of view from me. And I think for me, that was my preparation, like the grind work of trying to expand my mindset. Because I didn't have the resources that were given to me like many other individuals who did not look like me. So trying to find all of that, there was a sense of a journey where the steps that I'm doing, whether it's going to grad school, whether it's being one of few black males within my cohort, whether it's being one of few black males within the school that I was serving, that I truly had to understand exactly what it meant to be an educator, especially an educator that looked like me. And so I think my process wasn't necessarily I did step A, step B, it was more of, I have a chance to be in a position to truly empower young people. And if I want to do that, I need to do my homework. I need to truly understand who I am as a black male. I need to truly understand the community that I'm in. I need to truly understand history, not just history from a textbook, but every narrative that has ever been thought of in human existence. And then once I'm able to put all of that down, then applying that in a class